pick right back up where we left off. Nehemiah 13 and verse number 13. Again, so Tobiah, he was thought to be a faithful brother, but he wasn't. So now Nehemiah got to find somebody else to watch over the nation as he's leaving off for his journeys. So this Nehemiah 13 and verse 13. It says, and I made the treasurer over the treasuries, Shelemiah, right? The priest and Zadok the scribe of the Levites, and Pedaiah next unto them was Hanah the son of Zakur, the son of Mattaniah, for they were accounted faithful, right? In their office was to distribute unto their brethren. So when Tobiah was kicked out, not Tobiah, when Elisha was kicked out, who did Nehemiah set up? He set up these men. And what did they call them? It said, for they were accounted faithful, and their office was to distribute unto their brethren. So you have to find faithful men. All right, he set up faithful men to fulfill this job. And you have to kick out Elisha because his mind was off. His mind was bad. All right, let's go to First Maccabees. Get a few more. Let's go to First Maccabees, chapter 5, and verse number 16. All right. First Maccabees 5 and verse 16. So again, you want to be that brother and that sister that's dependable, take correction, reliable, trustworthy. What was another definition? All right, dependable, valid, genuine, trustworthy qualities. You want to be that individual. All right, again, if somebody wants to have a spiritual lineup of, these men that they can take to camp with them, and you gave each brother in the camp that charge and said, hey, look, write down 7 people that you would take to camp with you. All right, 7 of the mightiest men within your body. And you don't get picked for not one brother, you got to check yourself, man. So this First Maccabees 5 and 16. Now when Judas and the people heard these words, there assembled a great congregation. Right? Let me read that again. Now when Judas and the people heard these words, there assembled a great congregation together to consult what they should do for their brethren that were in trouble, and assaulted them. Then said Judas unto Simon his brother, choose thee out men, and go and deliver thy brethren that are in Galilee, for I enjoined that my brother will go into the country of Gilead. Right, so they, getting ready to go forth to battle the heathen. And this is the decree that's being brought forth. Verse 18. So he left Joseph, the son of Zacharias, and Azarias, captains of the people, with the remnant of the host in Judea to keep it. It says, unto whom he gave commandments, saying, take ye the charge of this people, and see that ye make not war against the heathen until the time that we come again. So you have Judas and Simon. They gave these men strict charge. All right, Joseph and Azarias, they gave these men strict charge to not go forth to battle with the heathen until we come again. And here it is. These are brothers in leadership, captains. These are reliable men. If you in the office of, high leadership, you're looked at as a reliable brother because you're able to do certain tasks and do certain things. These men was in that position. They charged them to do A, B, and C. Don't go forward to battle with the heathen until we come back. Let's see what these men did. All right, let's jump down to verse, same chapter, First Maccabees 5. Let's jump down to verse number 50, Salakia. 56. It says, and Joseph, the son of Zacharias and Azarias, captains of the garrisons, heard of these valiant, I'm sorry, 55, right? Now what time as Judas and Jonathan were in the land of Gilead, it says, and Simon, his brother, in Galilee, before Ptolemaeus, Joseph, son of Zacharias, and Azarias, captains of the garrisons, heard of the valiant acts and warlike deeds which they had done. So these men are hearing that a mighty acts, right, that Judas is doing, that Simon is doing. It says, wherefore they said, let us also get us a name, and go fight against the heathen that are round about us. So when they had given charge unto the garrison that was with them, they went toward Jamna. And that's, hold on now. So we just read that they got a charge not to do anything. All right. And so now they forsaking that charge, they forsaking that commandment. Men that were looked at as reliable, breaking commandment, breaking order. It says, verse 59, then came Georgius and his men out of the city to fight against them. And so it was that Joseph and Azarias were put to flight and pursued unto the borders of Judea. And there were slain in that day of the people of Israel about 2,000 men. Thus was it a great overthrow among the children of Israel, because they were not obedient unto Judas and his brethren, but thought to do some valiant act. So here it is. Again, these men who were looked at as reliable and mighty brothers, and they were charged with certain tasks, they fumbled the bag because they wanted to get a name for themselves, and they thought to do some valiant acting, be this great individual. All right, they overthrew themselves. And that shows how you can look at men, and men can come off as reliable. A system may come off as reliable, but that's why you charge that person. That's why you prove that person. You guys got to figure that person out, really who they are. So these men, again, they weren't found reliable. Be those men in Nehemiah 13 and 13, right? Who Nehemiah called faithful. Joshua, who was faithful to carry the charge of Israel after Moses. Caleb. Be like those men. Be like Abraham, who the Lord deemed as reliable and faithful to be able to establish law, statutes, and commandments within them, and to build a nation through him. Be like those men. All right, be like Silas, right? Who Paul found worthy to take with them. No, don't be like these. No, don't be like, Eliashib and, these brothers in First Maccabees, the 5th chapter. Don't be like them, Joseph and Azarias. Again, be that one that's dependable, reliable, faithful. Move in that spirit. All right, let's go to Luke 19 and 15. Luke 19:15. All right, it's the book of Luke 19, and verse number 15. So they cast out of the vineyard and killed them. It says, what therefore shall the Lord of the vineyard do unto them? He shall come and destroy these husbandmen, and shall give the vineyard to others. And when they heard it, they said, God forbid. And he beheld them and said, what is this? Then what is written? It's like, what is this then that is written? The stone which the builders, that's not what I want. Luke 19 and 15, Salakia. It says, and it came to pass that when he was turned, having received the kingdom, then he commanded these servants to be called unto him, to whom he had given money, that he might know how much every man had gained by trading. It says, then came the first, saying, Lord, thy pound have gained 10 pounds. He said unto him, well, thou good servant, because thou hast been faithful and very little, have thou authority over 10 cities. Look at that. There go that word faithful again. All right, there go that word faithful again. So these men, they have to be faithful. The Lord gave, and this is all spiritual. The Lord gives us talents. All right, Yahushua, he's the husbandman. We're the vine dressers through the Spirit. I believe that's what it said. All right. Nevertheless, we're the laborers. The Lord, he gives certain pounds. And if you're a faithful brother or a faithful sister, you're going to increase. You're going to bring more to the Lord than we gave you to begin with. All right. Verse 17 or verse 18. It says, and the second came, saying, Lord, thy pounds have gained 5 pounds. And he likewise said to him, be thou also over 5 cities. And another came, saying, Lord, I have kept laid up in a napkin. It's like, yeah, I've kept laid up in a napkin. For I feared thee, because thou art an austere man. Thou takest up now and reapest that thou didst not sow. That last brother, that's not a faithful individual. Here it is, the Lord gave you talents, blessings, gifts. And all the Lord wanted you to do was increase therein. And you never increased. Going back to the first point that I made earlier, in the last video that I shut off, before you can be faithful to anybody, show you that you're reliable to other individuals. Show yourself reliable to the Most High. All right, this brother in Luke the 19th chapter, right, verse 19, it's not a reliable individual. All right, be that one that brings forth more pounds and more weights and gifts to the Most High. Reading on. Actually, I'm going to jump down to verse, man, I'm going to jump down to verse 24. It says, and he said unto them that stood by, take from him that hath the pound, and give it to him that hath the 10 pounds. And they said unto him, Lord, he hath 10 pounds. For I say unto you, that unto every one which hath given, and from him that hath not, even of him that hath not, shall be taken away from him. So the Lord not dealing with anyone that's not reliable. If the Lord, bring you into this truth, you can't increase. You've been in this thing for 5 years plus, or 3 years plus, or whatever the case may be. You show no signs of growth or increase or bringing fruits to the Most High God. You're not a reliable, faithful, genuine individual. You're just taking up space at this point. And the Lord doesn't need men like that. So you got to find yourself to be reliable in this truth. To man, to the work of God, to the Most High, to your family, to the brotherhood, to the sisterhood, all around. All right, let's go to Luke 14 now. Let's go to Luke 14 and verse 16. Let me see what I want. Luke 14 and 16. Right, it says, then said he unto him, a certain man made a great supper, and bade many, and set the servant at supper time to say to them that were bidden, come, for all things are now ready. And they withal with one consent began to make excuses. The first said unto him, I have bought a piece of ground, and have much to see it. I pray thee, have an excuse. So all these men are making excuses, that's saying why they can't do A, B, and C. All these men are individuals that you don't need around you. These are all men that the Lord don't need around him. Men that just off men. You come up with excuses to not do the work of God. You got brothers like that. They can't come to camp because, it's some crazy excuses, right? I forgot to put gas in the car. I'm not gonna be able to make it to camp. Damn, my rib, not feeling too good, or I may have to stay back because her nose started running this morning, or I got the sniffles. I may not be able to come to camp, or this happened, or that happened. That's compared to these men right here. Brothers like that or sisters like that, you call them, you check up on them, and you don't get no response, or you get a response. You got to watch individuals like that, because that excuse making, that I can't depend on you spirit. You got to watch those individuals. That's the same spirit in Luke the 14th chapter. Reading on in verse 18. It says, I'm read that again. And they all with one consent began to make excuses. For the first said unto him, I have bought a piece of ground, and I must need to go and see it. I pray you have me excused. And another said, I have bought 5 yoke of oxen, and I go to prove them. I pray thee have me excused. And another said, I have married a wife, and therefore I cannot come. Yeah, that's married someone. What does that have to do with you doing the work of God? You say, I pray they have me excused. I can't come. I just got a wife. What does that have to do with anything? So again, these individuals, if you don't find yourself worthy to be reliable in the eyes of the Most High, in the eyes of your brethren, you got to check yourself. You got to see what you're doing. You got to self-examine. You got to get your mind right. All right. It says, verse 21. So that he can shew his Lord these things. Then the master of the house, being angry, said to his servant, go out quickly into the streets and lanes of the city, and bring in hither the poor, and the maimed, and the halt, and the blind. So the Lord will replace you real quick. All right, let's go to Sirach 43 and verse number 30. Sirach 40, close out with this. It says, when ye glorify Yahweh, exalt him as much as ye can, for even yet will he far exceed. And when ye exalt him, put forth all your strength, and be not weary, for ye can never go far enough. Right? And no man can never go far enough when it comes to serving the true living God, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. All right, and again, I want to give all praise, honor, glory to the Most High. Lord willing, that was edifying through the spirit and power of the Most High. Shalom.